Alright, folks, it's turn 26, and we did defend Soy Boy. Koneko did what I thought he would do. He launched his fleet in a desperate gamble attempt to take out my defenses, and he ran into a wall. 9 Gigantoplanet attackers, 169 Sentinels of Corsasso, plus some other assorted chaff, and we wiped him out pretty effectively. Now, we did obviously take heavy losses in the process, but in fact, by the end, we were down to only 6 Gigantoplanet attackers and almost nothing else. But 6 Gigantoplanet attackers is still 125 firepower, so all told, we lost about 200 to his 274. It was a solid fight, and we also stole a little bit of Ultranium from him, which we're turning into more Gigantoplanet attackers, just sort of adding insult to injury there, as it were. We're redeploying to Serendipity, we're launching these guys out towards Kittylandia, and the Vice is closing on Kittylandia. We're hitting Bigamo with about 60 firepower, Ebrington with well over 200. What is that? Actually, that's 150 some odd, 160, 200, almost 300 firepower landing on Ebrington, plus what's landing on Bigamo. Serendipity Thermonody has 200 firepower landing on it this coming turn, and then Kittylandia already has over 300 directed towards it. So all told, we're concentrating a lot of guns on Kittylandia in 2 turns. And then in 3 turns, 4 turns, and 5 turns, we have more units flowing into Kittylandia just to keep the pressure up. So we should be able to take Kittylandia, and convert its resources into firepower. The game will almost be over by then. It's turn 26. We have between 3 and 5 turns remaining. So we won't have that much longer to use it, but that's fine. Over here, Travail has efficiently eaten up CFRT 2007, pretty much. He doesn't have a whole lot left, only 2 worlds, both with fairly heavy but not exceptional fleets. If he were to counterstrike, I think he could actually probably take Gunsmoke back, but only if he did it right now. Because Gunsmoke it would be 2 turns, and he'd see them coming, but if he were to launch, but I think his only actual chance would be to launch both of these fleets right now. That's over 400 firepower. I don't know that Travail can concentrate 400 firepower to stop him in the time that it would take. So if I was CFRT 2007, that's what I'd do. I'd just launch for Gunsmoke right now. But at this point, I mean, he's a gunner. That has to be expected. In terms of total player rankings, we can look at all the players. Out of the, how many players were there in the game total? There were 34. 2 of them quit over time, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 have been completely eliminated. 9, 10, 11, 12. I would count these guys as having been effectively knocked out of the game in a pretty full fashion. So about a third of the game has been actually outright eliminated. There are a few others who are still like in it, still fighting. See, Jodos here actually conquered an enemy homeworld, owned a world with 1,000 firepower. Damn. Okay, so he's just turtling like hell, like crazy. Okay, more power to him. He might actually keep that until the end of the game. I am currently number 4. I may be able to pass Shaster. I may be able to end up in the number 3 slot. And that's what I'm aiming to do. I'm definitely not going to be able to meet U-Bones. I'm almost certainly not going to be able to pass Travail either, because Travail will gain some more worlds. I'm hoping, in the end analysis, to have gained 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, potentially 7 more planets, which would bring my total up to 31 or 32. And of course, that's only if I can manage to prevent U-Bones from raiding the hell out of me, which is what he's trying to do. We actually ran into each other on Jingtran as well, and because of that, I took much more heavy casualties than I should have, because, you know, he had this little fleet here, and so he killed a whole bunch of my bikes, which sucks, but alas, these things do happen. So, very short, very simple turn, and like I said, this is kind of the winding down portion of the game. The borders are effectively set. Only Deep Strike raiding can really change anything at this point, and that would have had to have been planned and launched several turns ago. I haven't planned and launched any, but that's fine. In terms of the map, we can zoom out so we can see the entire universe, so we can see I'm going to end up in control of this kind of swath down here at the bottom. You can see U-Bones over there in the pink. Actually, he also controls this up here. So U-Bones has really kind of hopped around, and he's like passed over Furry Trash, and he's kind of next to Shaster And Mongrel, he's eaten. I think most of Mongrel has been eaten. Mongrel controls the central portion right here. He still has some territory. But U-Bones has the most worlds right now, up there, and then all this down here. Shaster is kind of in competition, this light blue in the center. Over here, we've got Jolly Bones, who has also been doing quite well. Jolly Bones has 18 worlds, so he's been respectable. Travail is the yellow just below, just basically between me and U-Bones, with Star Charger sort of occupying a little bit of space between us. And then, who was the other higher ranking? Yeah, U-Bones, Travail, Shaster, and myself are the top 4. And then we also have Zen Master. Zen Master has 23 worlds, and he's the light blue up here. So he's also done pretty well for himself, although he's gotten himself into a kind of a funky shape. Aesthetically, I think my empire is the best. I declare a moral victory on that grounds, that my empire is the most contiguous and concentrated and best looking out of all of the leaders. So there, nya nya nya. In any case, that's basically the turn. That's pretty much it. We are just concentrating our fleets. We can see we have a few fleets that aren't being deployed yet. Swift Javelin is sitting on Zagrovic in order to pick up a little bit more chaff this coming turn, because it's only one turn from Zagrovic to Kittylandia. And, yeah, they'll be good to go. In fact, I could... These guys have to deploy this turn, because they're going to take 2 turns to reach Kittylandia, so they have to launch now. But what I could do is, I have 590 carrying capacity there, so... I could strip out a whole bunch of the chaff and leave it with Swift Javelin, just to make sure that I have as much concentrated firepower-wise as possible. Because Angry Lightning, of course, cannot be intercepted in mid-flight. So, if I were to take out the light ground chaff... Because there's some more ground chaff coming as well, but if I do that... That gives Swift Javelin a little bit more meat on its bones. It'll pick up these Sentinels of Garsasa, which will be 270 carrying capacity. That'll be fine. And Kittylandia is 82 units away, so I can also actually take these Instigators and put them in this fleet. I'm doing this because, in case it isn't clear, I'm doing this because it's possible that Koneko will actually attack me with this fleet. This fleet has over 500 firepower. It could hop to Zagrovic, beat my forces there, and then hop back to Kittylandia in time to defend the planet. I have to kind of take that risk, but by concentrating as much firepower as possible here, I ensure that, just letting go what has to move this turn in order to get there, I'm ensuring that I'll be able to... Oh god, I just dumped all the ground units out. Fuck me. I'm ensuring that he'll take the maximum number of casualties if he does that. And that's kind of the goal there, is to make sure that if he hops over here to Zagrovic in order to fight my fleet, he'll take a lot of casualties doing it so that, Swift Javelin won't be, lost in vain, which is always possible. I do have some incoming forces. Like I said, I've got 11 X7 Corvettes, I've got 11 X5 Raiders, and then I've got some units that won't arrive for another 2 turns, and so will not be relevant to the fight at Kittylandia. Unfortunately, I'd love to have those 2 CR Orgs with me. But overall, I've got the stuff, I've got the power, I've got troops deploying in from all directions. I'm leaving this one A203 crawler here to pick up another 36 Warmechs and launch to join. Buchanan, these forces are hopping around, and they're moving just to make it unpredictable where they're going to be, so as to lower the chances of him successfully intercepting them, since these fleets are too small to effectively fight Kittylandia. I am taking a little bit of a gamble in concentrating those forces on Bigamo. That's a small enough force that he could easily deploy a fraction of this to swat it, if he thinks of that. I don't know that he'll think of it, but I think it's less of a risk than sitting still here and waiting to see if he's going to launch a fleet at me, so we are moving. So we're going to hit Bigamo, we're going to hit Ebrington, and then next turn everything piles on Kittylandia. I should overpower him, and it'll be a pretty climactic battle. It may be one of the largest battles in the game, actually. We have Ibniel. The biggest battle this turn was a total of 950 firepower. Well, no, Phobos was a very, very big battle, a total of 1,600 firepower. God, so was Bathos. I didn't even notice that. Yeah, Bathos was a big fucking fight. Howza. This was Scary Raven's capital, I guess. And he had almost 1,000 Nozama fighters backed up by 19 E-Class Suicide Fighters. This is a real classic combination that punches well above its weight, because Nozama fighters are very chaffy and not very expensive, and they have that ability that gives them extra attacks when they have over 500. So if you have 500 of them, then each of them is effectively like over 1 firepower each. E-Class Suicide Fighters have the offense of powerful capital ships. Like, they're actually offensively superior to Gigantoplanet attackers, but they have defense of 1, so if they take a single hit, they die instantaneously. So that being so, if you have 1,000 Nozama fighter chaff, then your 19 E-Class Suicide Fighters, many of them will survive because they just didn't get hits allocated to them, is the goal. And so they'll get multiple rounds of fighting, and effectively, for every round that an E-Class is fighting, it's effectively like firepower 20-something, not firepower 4. It's firepower 4 because it tends to die very quickly, but if you can keep it from dying, then it does a ton of damage. So you can see here, 11 of them did die in that first round, that first absolutely apocalyptic round, but 8 of them survived. Interesting, though. That was interestingly one-sided. I would not have expected that many casualties on Nubby's side. But hush my mouth. I guess I wonder why he's losing so badly. I mean, he's overpowered by 300 firepower, so fair. I would have expected this combo to kind of make up some of that difference, but he is going up against 11 N-Class V3 battle stations, and N-Classes chug out a lot of firepower. N-Class V3s have 27 hits each, so these 11 N-Class battle stations are laying down 300 hits just between them. The N-Class V2s are putting out 18 hits each, so they're putting out almost about another 300, almost. Yeah, that's fair enough. He's got a lot of hit generation in this fleet. So, at the end of it all, Scary Raven did lose 1,000 firepower. Like, almost exactly 1,000 firepower. But in the process, he wiped out 1,100 firepower of Nubbies. Now, it should be noted that, generally speaking, if you overpower your enemy by this much, this is almost 400 firepower difference. Generally speaking, you won't take casualties as heavy as theirs, so the efficiency of this combo did help Nubby. It just didn't help quite enough. In any case, that's the turn over with. I'll see you all in turn 27, and we will find out. In turn 27, the final launches will occur. In turn 28, we will see if we can take Koneko's capital and secure our second expansion cluster for the glory of our great empire at Kittylandia. So, thank you so much. See you then. Alright, turn 27. We hit all of our targets here. We actually defended Jingtran from U-Bones launching a lone unaccompanied Megabot V4 to attack us, which was exploded by the Gigantoplanet attacker. He doubtless didn't expect to be here. And Koneko actually defended Ebrington, but the way he did it works out really well. He moved a very significant amount of firepower to defend Ebrington. This is a powerful fleet, much more powerful than mine. But watch what happens. As we go through here, we burned through pretty much all of his chaff. He burned through my chaff very, very quickly. But in the third round, we killed 2 of his Psy Haulers. And then in the 4th round, we killed a couple of CR Orgs as he finished off my fleet. So in terms of firepower, he lost less than I did. He lost almost exactly 200 firepower. I lost 280. But TK Psy Haulers only have 350 carrying capacity, and CR Org 2v4s cost 80 to move, which means that this Psy Hauler can actually only carry 4 of these, so 3 of them are stranded. Meaning that actually, he effectively lost from the defense of Kittylandia, he effectively lost an additional 105 firepower. His total casualties in this fight, considered as what's been removed from the defense of Kittylandia, were far higher than the units that I lost in that battle. So, my fleets are now converging on Kittylandia, and overall, I added these up a little while back. I forget what exactly the number is, but overall, this is like close to 1,000 firepower, I believe. I think it's 900 or so. It's far more than he can possibly bring to defend. Even if he used all of his population, burned all his Ultranium, churning out as many defensive units as possible, brought back all that he can from Ebrington. He just doesn't have the firepower in his whole nation. He only has less than 500 firepower in his whole nation. He can't build enough to stop my assault without getting super incredibly lucky. So Kittylandia is about to fall. Now, I have another fleet coming into Jingtran. Like I said, I'm actually moving some units to defend that. These X5s, and then I'm also sending Mythic Tower, these TK bikes, just because I really don't want to lose that. I'm going to take Kittylandia. I'll take Ebrington back, but it'll probably have to be next turn. And I'll want to take Abatewa as well. If I do that, once I take those 4, I'll, like I said, cap out at 32 worlds. Which should be... I'm not sure if I'll end up in the top 3 or not. I'll end up in the top 4, pretty certain. But it looks like Shaster isn't really under attack. So he might... Shaster may well be able to maintain his lead on me, because he's got 29 worlds right now, and he could easily take some more on the way. Okay, so this is sort of hilarious. Nubby has sent... those must have been... Captured nobody by Nubby. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. So this is a world that Nubby took with an Ozama Queen a while back and was just producing Ozama fighters on from Zen Master. So presumably Zen Master is getting those as gift fleets or something. I'm not sure. In any case, kind of interesting. But yeah, basically the game is now winding down. We're very much in the end game phase, and it'll be interesting to see. I'm hoping that I can take all those 4 and ensure that I don't lose any worlds, just end with my solid 32 planets. That would be fine by me. Last turn, the Tick finally lost Ectonia to a very large fleet from Travail, more than 1,700 firepower in this one battle. And in the end, Travail was left with 200 firepower of capital units. This is what tends to happen in big battles, of course. All the chaff gets burned away. Only capital units are remaining. If you have chaff left, that means the battle really wasn't that close. But we're close to the end, so we're going to finish off Koneko and sit tight on our 32 worlds and be happy with that, I think, because I don't think we'll have another good place to go unless we hop over Travail and try and pick a world or 2 away from U-Bones, which we could do. Could be viable. Now, we may actually be defending ourselves from his raids instead, because U-Bones seems to be persistently interested in pushing in against us. And we've also got Jolly Bones, who, fascinatingly, despite having only 18 worlds and quite a bit less population than me, has built up almost as much firepower as U-Bones. So he's got a lot of firepower floating around. And it's hard for me to tell exactly why. Well, I mean, actually, I know why. It's because as a Matog, he gets this Ultranium income bonus, which doesn't seem like a huge deal, but is actually kind of a huge deal in the later game. And he's just got his firepower scattered all over in penny packets, except over here, where it looks like he invaded ZPO a few turns ago and then hasn't really been doing anything with it. ZPO is pretty much dead. That's Castle Grayskull right there. He's got a couple other worlds, and then Placid Platypus is making a push as well. And Placid Platypus may also be fighting or have been fighting Russian. Not sure exactly what's going on there. But, you know, we'll see. That is H-Cobb's former homeworld, which Placid Platypus took a while back. So yeah, we're shifting into defensive mode, essentially. Here on Arion, there's actually no call to be producing more CR orgs. Instead, we are going to produce a whole bunch of Sentinels of Garsaso. Just, like I said, just for defensive purposes. To make sure that nobody can come in with a daring last-minute raid and take my capital away, which would be hugely embarrassing. And other places, yeah, we don't need that. We can build Sentinels of Garsaso on Kandra. This is just, basically at this point, it's just a question of how can we make the life of someone who wants to try and raid worlds away from me at the last moment the most difficult. And that's just kind of the strategy. Now, over here, we're still building TK bikes. Those TK bikes will launch on a solo, a daring deep space raid into someone else's territory pretty soon. We got Hue 9 Eliminators coming out over there. Down here, we don't need X5s anymore, so you can build, yeah, sure, all-terrain rovers, why not? They're cheap. Got War Monks coming out there, that's fine. Still Super Space Fighters, yeah, okay. And X5 Raiders, we don't need anymore. So let's go back to those all-terrain rovers. And we're still being capped by Ultranium just through sheer, well, lack of Ultranium. But you may notice all the fighters are very low price now, because so much complexity has shifted towards constructing capital units. If you look at the unit cost history, you'll see this trend. Fodder units spike kind of in the early mid-game, and then they trend down as a higher and higher percentage of the total complexity being spent starts getting spent on upgrades, which dilute the complexity pool very significantly, and capital units. You can see CR orgs are actually dropping very heavily now. They had a period where they were being built a lot that pushed them back up to base price, actually. CR org 2s stayed fairly low the whole game, but they kind of hovered around their own base price, which is not too expensive. Dinshofu stealth arts rocketed way up in price and are ending much higher than their base price. People love those, especially in the late game, because they're very fast. But in any case, that's the turn, and I'll see you all in turn 28. It'll be interesting to see when exactly the game ends, but it'll be sometime pretty soon. So, take care. Alright folks, endgame time. We have captured Kittylandia from Koneko. Koneko managed to pull together pretty much every bit of firepower he had left for a total of over 600, but we were hitting him with, of course, 964. The largest concentration of firepower I've deployed in this game to date. 12 CR orgs, 6 heavy cruiser V2s, 8 gigantoplanet attackers, a single Zeron medium cruiser, Lost and Lonely, and a whole bunch of chaff. Not a huge amount of chaff by the standards of this game. I mean, we've seen fleets with over 1,000 chaff units in them, and I had less than that. I could probably have benefited from some more, but this was what I had, so this is what I rolled with. So as we can see, in the first round, very first round, we annihilated the majority of the enemy's chaff. We lost a good fraction of ours, but not, I think, the majority, and then one unlucky CR org as well. He's putting out a lot of hits from these CR org V2s. Second round, chaff destruction continues. We've destroyed almost all of his. We still have some. Lost a gigantoplanet attacker. So we've taken a little bit of chip damage to our capitals, but our firepower advantage is now overwhelming. At this point in those 2 rounds, we've both lost very similar amounts of firepower. I've lost slightly less, but for him it matters a lot more than for me because he had less to start with. Third round, all the chaff is gone on the enemy side. We're now burning into his CR orgs. On my side, I still have some left. I've now lost a Zeron heavy cruiser, so I've lost one of each type of my capital ships. It takes until the 4th round for my chaff to be pretty much gone. I still have some TK tanks, but all of my real cheap units are destroyed. And now he's starting to burn into my capital units as well. But of course, my individual capital units aren't as powerful as his, and so aren't as important. So those 4 units survive another 2 rounds in total. They do quite a bit more damage. Take out a couple of TK bikes, and then in the last round, destroy a single TK tank. That's the victory. We have captured Kittylandia. Now, unfortunately, on this turn, U-Bones started to land more raiding forces. So this is clearly, U-Bones has chosen me as his endgame target, which is irritating because of things like this. This little raiding force, it's extremely brittle because it relies for firepower entirely on these Zenrin, who honestly do not have very high defense scores. The majority of the firepower is this one Zenrin Master V4, but Zenrin are extremely annoying units for this reason, that you can mount them on Scanomatics, which are expensive for their carry capacity. They only have 1 carry capacity, but they also move at speed 300. So you can do this. You can launch these raiding parties that move at speed 300 near the end of the game and just fight these hopeless little skirmishes way far away from your own territory. It's quite annoying, to be honest. My 9 X7 Corvettes burn 1 Zenrin fighter, and then he takes over Einstein there. I had moved units to defend Xingtran, but didn't have quite enough. He actually deployed more firepower to that than I thought he had. So, ended up losing this battle. We did inflict a ton of damage, killing all of his chaff, his suicide fighters, reducing him to only 3 units. But wasn't quite enough, unfortunately. So he took Xingtran as well. And Koneko launched a single A203 crawler to attack Thermonity, and won after a long and desperate battle between 2 random fighters and 1 almost unarmed transport unit. So, we've got this 73 firepower here in Einstein. I'm deploying a lot of fleets. I have a lot of fleets moving around to my various, like, my own worlds. And basically the point of this is almost every world within 300 of Einstein is going to end up with approximately 80 firepower on it. We're spreading our firepower out, forming a defensive, like, curtain wall to prevent those guys on Einstein from actually taking any worlds, hopefully. I can't promise that it'll work, but I think it'll pretty much work. Between production and moving troops around, anywhere he goes, he's going to run into a wall, and he's going to struggle. He may be able to punch through, but at least he'll struggle. That's, you know, the best I can hope for. Up here, we've got some fighters. We're pumping out 51 Sentinels of Garsaso. Kadesh is one of the weak links. So what we're going to do is, so disband that fleet. We're going to actually concentrate these raiders. Since if there's a world that I can't guarantee I have the firepower to hold, I'm not going to try. We're actually going to launch those towards Einstein. And then, since I can't defend this world, we're going to take that Sensor 200 and move it to Flinch, where I am deploying a fleet, a defensive fleet. Serendipity, these guys are just sitting here. And they should, with those Q9 eliminators that I'm building, should be able to bounce the monks if they attack Serendipity. And then over here, I think Eisenhut is one that I'm not defending, so we're just moving away from there. Bia, I am launching a fleet to defend. From Mimer, yeah, I'm sending 35 Super Space Fighters down there to join these guys. And we'll have like 40 Super Space Fighters. Well, that's not really enough to defend Bia. We'll see what happens there. Abrawari, we've got a fleet going to defend. Mira, we've got a fleet going to defend. Relay, we have a fleet going to defend. For Swarm, we're defending. Bethira is actually just out of range and should be able to defend itself with Q9 eliminators. We're deploying these guys down to help for Sworn. Khandra, we are moving to defend. We're deploying some fighters to Khandra, and we're deploying some CR orgs to Forsworn there. We've canceled the auto fleets from Relay, so we're going into maximum defensive mode over on that side. On this side, we're deploying fleets out to take these worlds. We're launching our counter-strike. We're launching a lot of firepower onto Bayatodos, because we have an incoming fleet there, and if I can stop that incoming fleet here, that will break part of his attack on me. And it will then provide a jumping off point to retake Sthurgton, or rather take Sthurgton and retake Jintran, which I would love to do. I don't know where this force is going to go. It may well split up. That Megabot V2 can hit a variety of worlds, but doesn't really have any good targets in the cluster. We've got enough Warmechs being built here to stop that one Megabot V2 if it heads for Adim. Juffer has 100 Sentinels of Garsaso, so has about 60 firepower there, and is building me a couple of Megabot V2s, followed by more Sentinels. We're just going to make sure that Juffer can hold, and those Megabot V2s can also join in attacking Sthurgton and Jingtran. And in terms of attacking fleets, so yeah, we're hitting Ebrington, we're hitting Olnager, this is us doing the same thing, kind of. We're raiding another player entirely. We're just launching a random raiding fleet into Russians' territory. We're going to grab a world or possibly two. Probably just a world and then bounce. Because he's pretty well defended everywhere else. We might ricochet north into Jollybones, but Jollybones has also gone quite effectively into full defensive mode, and it's working out for him. So we'll see where those guys can go. They might not end up going anywhere. And what else? What else? That's Abatiwa, Einstein. So yeah, we have a fleet heading for Sthurgton in 2 turns already, and then more fleets in 3 and 4 turns. So we need to be kind of taking that world by that time. I don't know how many more raiding fleets are incoming from U-Bones. It's probably a lot. He's chosen me to be his target here, and we can see that if we look at him and list his battles are against me, and he's not fighting a ton of battles. So, you know, this is just going to be the way it is. I'm probably not going to hit my 30 world goal, because U-Bone's raiding will prevent me from having all these worlds at one time if he keeps it up. Now, if he just launched a couple waves of raiding fleets, and I beat them up, and then he gives it up as a bad job, then I may be able to secure myself. But he probably won't, because it's almost the end of the game. Like, the game could theoretically end next turn. If the game ends next turn, assuming I manage to defend against his attack, I will end up with, I have 26 worlds right now, so 26, 27, 28, and that's it. I'll end up with 28 planets, assuming I don't lose any. If the game lasts 2 more turns, then I may be able to retake a few more planets, a couple more planets at least from him, but we'll just kind of have to see how that goes. Not super optimistic about it. I don't think I'm going to reach 30, which is a little bit annoying, but hey, it's alright. Everything will be fine. I have performed well enough in this game. I feel satisfied with my performance, and I think it served as a decent introduction to Ultracorps for everyone watching. So in any case, thanks for watching the turn. I'll see y'all on turn 29.